how we need to perhaps implement the law as it is. We are working closely with the International Police Organization, Interpol, to deal with the extra territorial jurisdiction issues that may arise in the process of this work. And I have read the form that was read out by the member, I think Honorable Mayaka. And I agree with sentiments that is quite disturbing. But on the other hand, I am aware that many people, not just in Kenya, in the world, do not read even some of these things. They do not read those kind of things. And that brings me back to the question of what I had raised earlier on in terms of the nature of consent. Is it informed, deliberate, voluntary consent, or was it consent obtained by inducement and so forth and so on? And as much as I want to agree with the Honorable Kaluma that the current law could still help us, I still believe there are areas that we need to improve, including both the criminal offenses section and the elements of those offenses. In either the act or the regulations, but I agree with him still. We have a lot of areas that we could implement and still achieve some results. What also intrigues me in that consent, the details of that consent form that was signed by our people, was the deliberate exclusion of the jurisdiction of the laws of Kenya on our citizens, which on a matter like this, it should not have happened. That would have been something that should not have been allowed by the authorities, by government, because data, especially data in the manner in which it was harvested here, is citizen data is a sovereignty issue. It's a sovereignty issue. So that exclusion of the applicability of the laws of Kenya, for me, appeared to be offensive in that consent form. I've also been asked to tell the committee why it took us too long, since this entity appeared to have been operating, although indirectly, for 2-3 years. And the answer is simple. As security managers, it is not in our space to lord over private or business interactions of people. And I said that last time I appeared before the plenary of the National Assembly. That is my view. That's what I believe in. Our work is to provide the policy context in which business and private matters operate. And unless something has been raised, either through a complaint or we have reasonable grounds to suspect those interactions are violating our law, that's when we come in. So for a long time, and what actually triggered us was the queues and the complaints. Beyond that, we left it to science and commerce and business operations and transactions. If people are within the law, it's not in our business to obstruct them. And with regard to I was also asked why, whether we are able to trace financial inflows and outflows in our country. And the answer is in the affirmative. Except the cryptocurrency space, because of the reasons I gave earlier, our institutions of surveillance of financial flows are not at this point able to regulate cryptocurrency trade and transactions. And that is my problem as a security manager. That's where my problem is. And I know this puts me in direct conflict with other legitimate interests of commerce and trade and business and investment. But if, as a security manager whose responsibility at the end of the day will to be asked, why have the people of Kenya been harmed? This crypto thing, I need to know who is doing what, the source of whatever investment which is being put there, where it is going, and the entire chain. You know, we must be able to regulate it. If we cannot regulate it, then it is, in my view, should not be allowed. And I say that with deep respect to the contrary opinions that we have received from those who think that this is a good thing. Then was also even asked what the role of the Minister of Interior is in that surveillance. The Cabinet Secretary for Interior chairs the Interministerial Committee on Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Terrorism Financing. And I've already held a meeting as late as 2 weeks ago. And this is a meeting where my colleagues, the CS for the National Treasury, is a member, as well as the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, as well as the Central Bank Governor, the Director General Financial Reporting Center, the Inspector General of Police, the Chief of Defense Forces, and all that. So we have a role. It is our business. But going forward, and that's why Parliament becomes important, help us to clarify the law that we should use on crypto transactions. Leave the enforcement on us, because at the moment our hands are tied. And I really challenge Parliament to give us an act of Parliament in whatever shape, even an elementary act of Parliament that will give us the general space from where to operate. Then the Honorable Kaluma talked about the requirement for foreign companies to be registered before they operate in Kenya. I don't want to preempt investigations, but the question is whether this company was operating in Kenya, or whether a company associated with this company was operating in Kenya. And it's something that will come out perhaps as we go along. With Honorable Shabil asked about many issues around the kind of equipment which were brought into the country. I agree. Again, I agree with him to the extent that these are not scanning equipment, they are scanning and communications equipment, which brings into purview the role of the Communications Authority in authorizing that equipment. So again, investigations will help us, and I hope this the reports of this committee will be part of the what will help us zero in on who perhaps may have caused this lapse in terms of the type of equipment brought in, the payment of taxes, whether it was done correctly, and to the question of who is protecting these people. Chair, I don't know. The assurance I can give the National Assembly and this committee, through this committee, from where I sit, any person in government, out of government, in public sector, in private sector, who it is established, aided, abetted, supported, encouraged, or even attempted any of those things to facilitate any crime which may have been committed in the circumstances of the WorldCoin, we will hold them accountable. And that is the assurance I want to give as the security minister. We will hold them accountable. That is the policy framework upon which the DCI is operating. There is no one who is immune, nobody is excluded, and we have depoliticized our organs and agencies of national security to ensure that if people are found on the wrong side of the law, action is taken. It doesn't matter who that person is. Even if it is myself as the security minister, I will take responsibility. I will not be in a position at this point to tell the committee with certainty, 100% certainty, whether we retrieve and compel the retrieval of that data and by what time. But as I said earlier on, I believe it is possible. And I want to give the commitment of the government that we will go out of our way to make sure it is done. And perhaps a little more time, another 1-2 weeks, I should be in a position, even if I do not have to appear here, to provide a written position on where we are on this matter after I clarify 1 or 2 things. I will be more than happy to come back here, Chair, but the assurance is that even if I am not able to come back here before you complete your mandate, I pledge, as the law requires, that we shall implement all the recommendations that this committee and the National Assembly will recommend to the government. On behalf of government, we will implement all the recommendations 100%. Thank you.